is indeed an honor and privilege to be invited to speak to you today regarding Secretary of State Thad Eure, a true statesman. And he liked to be referred to as Mr. Democrat, and he was the oldest rat in the Democratic Party. My tenure in the office in the state capitol began March 22nd, 1971. I was always impressed by his unique leadership style. He was an individual who could relate to old and to young. Mr. Eure would greet the school buses loaded with the school children, and he wanted to teach them. He wanted them to know about their government. But he also wanted them to know, remember me to your parents. Okay. So for nearly 20 years of service for Secretary Eure, I admired his ability to lead a large department of employees with different points of views and opinions. He would allow his 5 division heads to supervise their staff and report to him if advice was needed. His style of leadership was trust and respect for his employees, and in turn, they never wanted to disappoint him. They were indeed loyal. They were faithful to Mr. Eure. The staff consisted of 100 employees, and Mr. Eure did not want to ask for more than necessary from the General Assembly. He was a member of the General Assembly. He knew about your tax dollars, and he valued the people's money, and he had that keen instinct. We don't need to spend more than we need to. It's savings for the taxpayer. Mr. Eure, as we know, was appointed and then ran for Secretary of State in 1936. He was 36 years old, folks. But he served longer than anyone in America. Think on that. It's unprecedented. President Ronald Reagan presented him with an award, and Mr. Eure was so proud of that. So proud. The Council of State would often meet in the governor's office in the Capitol. On one occasion, Commissioner of Agriculture Jim Graham came into the office to make a phone call, and he was sitting in the chair and he was rocking back and forth, and without warning, the chair broke. So Mr. Eure came running out and said, "Jim, I don't go to your office and break your chairs." And the commissioner said, "Mr. Eure, you need to buy some new chairs." So they were dear friends, dear friends. Through the years, Mr. Eure would reflect on his service here in this county, Gates County. He loved his home, and he would talk about his parents. He wanted to serve with his father, as you know, who served in the General Assembly. But his father would look at Mr. Eure and he'd say, "Son, who's going to take care of Mama? If I'm in Raleigh, who's going to take care of the home place?" So it was decided that Mr. Eure would run for office another time. It was decided that Mr. Eure would stay home and take care of his mother and the home place. We talked about a lot of things. What an honor and a privilege for me to hear that his father would take the children into town in the springtime. And as you demonstrated with that straw hat, his father would buy him a straw hat. So every year on April 6th, he would honor his father's memory, because that was something special in his childhood. We talked about the green ink. It's famous, but this is my story and what he told me. This is always a fact check. But Mr. Eure said, "Brenda, I was in New York, and I had the honor and the privilege to meet then Governor Roosevelt. I was with a delegate at the convention in New York, and he said, Thad, let's go up and meet Eleanor Roosevelt." And he said, "I'd love to do that and meet the governor." And he walked in, and Eleanor was in her kimono. She opened the door and he said, "Come in and meet the governor," and who later became our president, as you know. And Mr. Eure said, the manager was signing in green. He said, "I'm taking that with me. I will sign in green for the rest of my life." So that is where I heard the beginning of the green ink. We know now many times that Mr. Eure wore the red bow tie. He always said, "I'm wearing one and I'm washing one. I'm wearing one and I'm washing one." the lapel pin that he's wearing in that portrait, this is one from his lapel. I've had this in safekeeping, folks. He loved the University of North Carolina. He was married at his fraternity house. He was married on his birthday. Correct me. He didn't want to forget his anniversary. So, and he was extremely proud. In that portrait, you see the book. Kay Hollowell Barker worked in our office in the publications division, and she knows she put so much work in that. That book was called the North Carolina Manual. He was so proud of that. It had all the history he wanted everybody to know about North Carolina. And so he said, when I do that portrait, I want to have that in that portrait. So there it is. He was proud of that. This is emotional. I was his only executive assistant in his tenure. We talked about it. He said, Brenda, you can't do the job. Only a man can do the job for a governor of the state. He thought about it and he said, you know, you're doing the job. We're going to do it. You're going to be the executive assistant. And I said, Mr. Eure, you just made history. And when he did that, other council of state members began to do the same. Mr. Eure was indeed progressive. He was visionary. He had 5 divisions, and 3 divisions were headed by women. It's unprecedented. When he began in 1936, we were in the war years, folks. Women needed a job. The men were off in the war. He hired women to do it. Again, ahead of the curve, visionary, progressive. But I want to tell you, he loved Elon College, now Elon University. It was part of his church, the Eure Christian Church. He served longer than anyone as chairman of the board, 20 plus years. I was just at Elon University yesterday at an event there, convocation there, and everybody knew that I was coming. And everybody wanted to say hello to the Eure family from the university. They love him. And I will be reporting back to them. And let me say, he coined the phrase, long live Elon. He was very involved in the Elks. He was Mr. Elk. He loved the organization. Thank you so much for letting me. This is an honor to be on this podium. I could reflect on so much more, but I want to leave you with the knowledge that Mr. Eure loved his family. He would tell everybody, I'm worth $7 million. I've got 7 grandchildren. And he loved his wife, Meta. He loved his daughter, Arlisha. And you talked about the flags at the Capitol. Your mother's picture stayed on that mantle, and his son, Thad Jr. When you walked in that personal office, that's who you saw, his children. His son, he loved them. They were his rock. He knew that it was their sacrifice in order for him to serve the citizens of North Carolina, and they were a great team. Couldn't have happened without the support of his family. But in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, he often told me, I want to come home, Brenda. He's in Raleigh with his wife and family, but he wanted to come home. So today he's home. He's come full circle, folks. He's home in Gates County. He is so happy about this highway marker if he could be here. He is so excited and so thrilled that he was chosen to be honored in a historic manner. And I want to leave you with what he would say to you. I love you mighty good. Thank you.